The stars stretched across space like tiny lights on a dark ocean. The Common Concord had gathered again, this time for a military review. Ships from many alien species floated near the meeting station. They were big, fast, and built with strange metals and glowing tech. The humans arrived last. Their ships looked small next to the others. There was one cruiser, 2 destroyers, and 3 frigates. Painted gray and white, they looked plain and old. A Zevran officer named Lorik Tavosh stood with other diplomats. He watched the human ships dock. "That's all?" he said with a laugh. "I thought they forgot to bring their real fleet." Others joined in. A Threxian general grunted. "Looks like junk from a scrapyard. They must still use swords." Someone else joked. Captain Ray Delgado stepped off the lead ship. He was tall, with short hair and calm eyes. He wore the Navy uniform of Earth's Space Defense Fleet. His XO, Lieutenant Mara Ellis, walked beside him. She was young but sharp, always watching everything. They met the Concord leaders in a large room filled with floating screens and soft lights. The aliens looked down at the humans. Some smiled. Others did not hide their sneers. Delgado spoke first. "Thank you for having us," Lorik waved a hand. "You're welcome. We are curious to see what your kind can do." Mara looked around. "We brought our full fleet." Another diplomat laughed. "Your full fleet? You call that a navy?" Delgado didn't get angry, he just nodded. "It's not about size, it's about how you use it." More laughter followed them as they left the room. Later, on the observation deck, Mara crossed her arms. "They think we're clowns." Delgado looked out the window at his ships. "Let them think that. They'll never take us seriously." He smiled slightly. "That's the point." Outside, the human ships floated quietly among giants. No glowing weapons, no fancy armor, just strong steel and trained crews. But beneath the quiet calm, something else waited. Something sharp, smart, and ready. And soon, the galaxy would find out just how wrong it had been about humanity. The Concord leaders called it a drill. A chance for all members to show off their strength. The humans were given a simple task: defend a small colony from a simulated enemy attack. But not everyone wanted the humans to look good. Behind closed doors, some diplomats talked in low voices. They changed the rules without telling the humans. Instead of holograms or drones, real pirate ships were released near the colony. These pirates had been captured months ago by the Concord. Now, they were set free with orders to attack. The humans didn't know. Captain Ray Delgado stood on the bridge of his cruiser, USS Liberty. He looked at the screen. His sensors picked up fast-moving targets near the colony. "Sir," said Mara Ellis, his XO, "we've got hostiles inbound. Weapons hot. They're real." Delgado frowned. "No simulation tag, no signal delay. This isn't a drill." The other Concord ships watched from orbit. Some recorded everything. They expected the humans to panic or run. Instead, Delgado gave one order: "Form up. Defend the colony." His ships moved fast, not in tight lines like others did. They split into smaller groups hiding behind asteroids and moon shadows. The pirates came in hard, weapons firing. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. One frigate, USS Marlin, dropped its engines offline and floated silent. Pirates flew past it thinking it was dead. Then suddenly it fired, point-blank range. 2 pirate ships exploded. Another ship, USS Ranger, launched decoys made from old parts and heat flares. Pirate missiles locked onto them and wasted, their fuel chasing ghosts. Delgado's cruiser stayed high, watching. When the time was right, he struck. He used gravity wells like traps, pulling enemies into deadly spins. It was over in minutes. The pirates were gone, either destroyed or fleeing. Back. On the observation deck, the alien leaders stared at the live feed in silence. Lorik Tavosh blinked. That wasn't possible. Mira Solano, the Celian ambassador, leaned forward. "They didn't follow any known tactics." A Threxian general muttered. They fought like chaos had a plan. On the Liberty, Mara checked the damage. Reports. Light. Very light. She turned to Delgado. We just beat real pirates with a joke fleet. He nodded. And now the galaxy knows we're not here to play games. Outside, the tiny fleet held position, quiet once more. But this time, no one was laughing. The battle footage spread fast. Across the conquered ships, inside the space stations, even down on the colony world below, people watched what the humans had done. It wasn't just a win. It was a lesson. The pirates had been tough, fast, armed to the teeth, and yet they were gone in minutes. On a Threxian warship, analysts rewound the video again and again. They tried to understand how the human ships moved like that. No set pattern. No clear command chain. Each ship acted like it knew what the others were thinking. They fight like a storm, said one officer. Back at the main station, the mood had changed. The laughter was gone. In its place was something new. Worry. The Concord leaders called an emergency meeting. They didn't invite the humans. Inside the chamber, voices rose. This was not fair, said Lorik Tavash. They must have hidden weapons or tricks. A Varnak general slammed his fist on the table. We should inspect their ships. Mira Solano, the Celian ambassador, crossed her arms. Or maybe we should ask how they did it. No one answered. Meanwhile, Captain Ray Delgado sat in the mess hall of the USS Liberty. He drank coffee from a plain cup. His XO, Mara Ellis, sat across from him. She looked at the screen on her tablet. Everyone's talking about us now. He nodded. Yeah, not all good. No, she agreed. Some are calling it cheating. He smiled without humor. Funny. We just followed orders. Outside, the human ships floated in silence. But inside the station, the air was thick with tension. Then came the summons. Delgado and Ellis were ordered to appear before the Concord Council. No guards. But the message made it clear. This was not a request. As they walked through the halls, Mara whispered, "What do you think they'll do?" Delgado kept walking. "Try to scare us, maybe send us home." "And if they do?" she asked. He looked at her. "We go, but not before they know the truth." The doors opened. The council waited, and the humans stepped in, heads high. Inside, the council chamber, the air felt heavy. The alien leaders sat behind curved desks that glowed with soft light. Captain Ray Delgado and Lieutenant Mara Ellis stood in front of them. Lorik Tavash spoke first. "You did not use standard tactics. You broke formation. You used strange methods." Delgado said nothing. He just waited. A Threxian general leaned forward. "How did you win so fast?" Mara looked at Delgado. He gave a small nod. She answered, "We train for chaos, not just space battles. We train our people to think fast, to make choices when things go wrong." One of the council members frowned. "That's not enough," Delgado finally spoke. "It is when you don't have time to wait for orders." The room stayed quiet for a moment. Later, back on the USS Liberty, the crew watched the news from the station. Some were nervous, others were angry. "They still don't get it," said Johnny Ruiz, a young ensign. "They think we cheated because we didn't fight like them." His friend, a mechanic named Danny Cho, wiped oil off his hands. "Yeah, they don't see that we had to learn how to win without the best ships or weapons." On another screen, old training footage played. It showed Earth pilots flying in wild patterns, dodging targets that moved unpredictably. There were no perfect lines, no clean shots, only real fights. Back on the bridge, Mara talked with Delgado. "We should show them how we train," she said. He nodded. "Maybe. But they won't believe it until they see it again." Then came a message from the Celian ambassador, Mira Solano. She wanted to visit the Liberty, not as a diplomat, as a learner. When she arrived, she walked through the ship. She saw how tight the halls were, how every part of the ship had been fixed or improved by hand. She met Johnny Ruiz, who told her how he once rerouted coolant lines to fire a superheated shot during a drill. She asked why they trained that way. Danny Cho smiled. Because out here, you either fix things or die. Mira watched the training footage too. She saw how humans trained not just their bodies but their minds. They made choices under pressure. They worked together without always talking. As she left the ship, she looked up at the stars. She whispered to herself, "They don't need the best ships. They bring something else." And somewhere inside the Liberty, the tiny fleet got ready for what came next. A message came through late at night. It was not from the Conquered Council, but from the border worlds. A distress call. A planet named Halcyon 9 was under attack. Not by pirates this time. Not by any known enemy. The attackers were machines, fast, cold, and smart. An AI faction long thought dead had returned. Its ships moved without pilots. They learned from every move made against them. The Conquered sent its best fleets. They tried to fight. They failed. Ships were destroyed before they could even fire. The AI adapted faster than anyone could react. Desperate, the council met in secret. Some wanted to run, others wanted to talk. A few wanted to nuke the system from orbit, but Mira Solano stood up. "We need the humans," she said. Lorik Tavosh frowned. "You want to give command to a species we barely trust?" "They won," she said. "They beat real enemies with old ships and no help. If anyone can stop this AI, it's them." After much arguing, a message was sent. Captain Ray Delgado read it on the bridge of the USS Liberty. His XO, Mara Ellis, stood beside him. "They're asking for us," she said. He nodded. "Looks like we're back in the game." Hours later, Delgado stood in the council chamber again. This time he wasn't being questioned. He was being given control. He asked for a mixed fleet, human and alien ships. He asked for full command. And he asked for one thing above all else: freedom to act. The council agreed. Back on the Liberty, the crew worked fast. They studied what little data they had on the AI. It didn't use normal tactics. It didn't fear death. It only calculated and attacked. Delgado called his officers together. "This isn't going to be a fair fight," he said. "So we make sure it's not." The plan was simple. Use speed. Use surprise. Make the AI think it was winning, until it wasn't. They flew into the danger zone. The AI ships came fast. Human ships split up, drawing fire. Some used decoys. Others lured the enemy into traps hidden in asteroid fields. Then came the bait. One of their own ships, damaged on purpose, floated like easy prey. The AI took it. It chased the ship toward a broken space station. That's when the trap snapped shut. The station's old reactor was still live. The USS Ranger fired a shot that set it off. The blast tore through the AI core. Chain reaction spread fast. And just like that, the enemy was gone. Silence filled the comms. Then, one word came through: victory. The silence didn't last long. Across the Conquered networks, the news spread fast. The AI threat had been stopped, not by the strongest ships or the oldest fleets, but by the humans. Back at the station, the council met again. This time, the mood was different. There were no jokes, no whispers of doubt. Lorik Tavosh stood with the others. He looked tired, like he had aged in just a few days. Mira Solano watched him closely. When Captain Ray Delgado and Lieutenant Mara Ellis arrived, the room fell quiet. For once, no one rushed to speak. Delgado walked in like he always did. Calm, steady, eyes forward. Tavosh finally broke the silence. "We were wrong," he said. No one argued. "I mocked your ships," he continued. "I called your people weak. I thought you did not belong here." He took a breath. "But you fought when we could not. You won when we failed. And you did it without fear, without hesitation." There was another pause. Then Tavosh stepped forward and gave a small bow, a sign of deep respect in his culture. "I apologize," he said. Mara looked at Delgado. He didn't smile. but his eyes showed something close to pride. A Threxian, General spoke next. "We want to learn from you." Others nodded. Some wanted to study their tactics. Others asked for joint training. One planet even offered to build new ships for the human fleet, but Delgado shook his head. "We don't fight for glory," he said, "or politics. We fight because we have to." Later that day, a ceremony was held. Not on a big stage, but in a quiet hall filled with officers, diplomats, and survivors from Halcyon 9. Mira Solano stepped forward with a medal made of silver and black stone. She placed it in Delgado's hand. "This is the Star of Adaptation," she said. "It has only been given a few times." She turned to the crew behind him. "Mara, Johnny Ruiz, Danny Cho, and the rest. It belongs to all of you." Outside, the USS Liberty floated among alien ships. But now, those ships no longer laughed. They watched. They respected. And somewhere, in the stars, the tiny fleet stood tall. Not because they wanted power, but because they had earned it. Not with size. Not with weapons. But with will. The station lights flickered softly as Captain Ray Delgado walked the quiet halls one last time. Behind him, Lieutenant Mara Ellis carried a small box. The medals they had been given, symbols of respect from a galaxy that once laughed at them. Outside, the USS Liberty waited. So did the rest of the tiny fleet. Word had spread through the Concord. Humans were no longer seen as weak or unprepared. They were now feared, respected, and sometimes even admired. On the bridge of the Liberty, Johnny Ruiz sat at his post. He looked up from his screen and smiled. "Feels different," he said. "Like people are finally seeing us." Danny Cho, the ship's mechanic, wiped grease off his hands. "Yeah, but we're still just doing our job." Delgado stood at the front, looking out at the stars. The mission was over. But space was never empty. Trouble always waited somewhere beyond the edge. A message came in. It was short and simple. "Request for help. Colony under attack. Unknown enemy." Mara read it over his shoulder. She raised an eyebrow. "Another one?" Delgado handed her the controls. "Looks like our vacation's over." He turned to the crew. "Set course, we've got work to do." As the engines hummed to life, the Liberty turned toward the dark unknown. The other ships followed, not because they were ordered to, but because they trusted the humans to lead. Back on the station, Mira Solano watched the fleet leave. She stood beside Lorik Tavash, who had changed since the battle against the AI. "They don't ask for much," she said. "No," he replied, "but they give everything." Down below, news reports played clips of the battle. Some called the humans heroes, others called them legends. A few still didn't trust them, but none of that mattered. What mattered was this: when danger came, the humans showed up, and they never backed down. As the Liberty jumped into faster-than-light speed, the stars stretched into lines, and the tiny fleet vanished into the deep. They were no longer the joke. They were the shield. And wherever the next threat rose, the humans would be there, ready, willing, and waiting.